looks like cash, can work like cash, but safer than cash.
That's right.
Is the idea.
Yeah.
Right? Great. Yeah. I mean, sounds like a win-win. So I think we're all of the same mind that we need to see this progress. So Jed, I'll go to you really quick. Stellar is a blockchain network that I think most people associate with Lumens because of the crypto craze that's happening right now. But really, Stellar is really kind of a token registry and a token asset management platform, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then also about what other kinds of non-cash assets are you seeing starting to be tokenized?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said originally, like the whole idea behind Stellar was to make things interoperable, make different financial institutions and currencies all interoperable. Because really, I think it's very hard to get everyone to move to one central thing, or not central thing, but one single thing, like either whether it's the dollar or Bitcoin or whatever. People are going to want to use lots of different local currencies and assets, and the trick is really just to make all these things interoperable. And the way you do that is like allow them all to be represented in the same system, right? So that's what Stellar is. You can represent dollars, Bitcoin, and really any kind of asset. And the cool thing is you can like trade them between each other once they're in the system. So like if I'm holding dollars and I want to send you pesos, they can like seamlessly be converted between each other, things like that, right? So that enables cross-border payments and essentially interoperability between all these financial networks. But people have used it beyond fiat. I mean, we built it for fiat for like cross-border payments, but people have used it for things like, let's say, gold, like shares of real estate, carbon credits, coffee beans, like all kinds of like kind of novel things people have come up with, and we expect that to continue as kind of the network grows. Like that's kind of what I hinted at before, where the inventors of the internet didn't kind of anticipate things like Wikipedia or Airbnb. These kind of arise once you give people this open platform, and that's what Stellar is, this open platform. So we expect like lots of innovation and cool things to be developed. So
that's great. So as you bring up this idea of one network or a series of interoperable networks, but let's just assume it's kind of like one logical network, and on that are tokens that represent ownership of real-world assets, including cash, but also other asset classes, and those can be dynamically, kind of swapped in real time. That seems to me to have a huge implication for the future of just transaction processing everywhere, right? I mean, if you look at all sorts of markets, the capital markets, and this what I would consider to be somewhat absurd notion that between the time that you commit to buying a security on a stock exchange and the time it's actually yours and you've paid for it to be like 2 to 3 days later, that just seems unreasonable maybe. So as we carry this forward, and maybe this is for any of you who would like to answer, but where does this all go? I mean, when assets are represented digitally and they can therefore be exchanged, and the asset represents ownership on the digital asset represents ownership on the underlying physical asset, and we can kind of exchange these things dynamically in real time. What does that do to markets today, in your mind?
I mean, there should just be way less friction, and they should be way more efficient, and people can, you can buy your coffee with your Apple shares or something like that, because these are just assets that can be converted in between each other. So it just opens up like a world of possibilities that I think we'll be surprised by the results.
Right. Mike, you look like you were going to say something there too.
Oh, I don't know. Let me ask quick. I want to ask a question that kind of come at the.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to get rich from this? I'm just serious. Anyone who's doing blockchain, I always feel this tension where, on the one hand, if we create another Jeff Bezos in the blockchain revolution, then we did it wrong, right? Because it's about the commons, it's about decentralization, and I hear that's the spirit of this. But how do you incentivize people to create the fabric that would help people align incentives, and especially in ways like why? I'm always befuddled that people aren't tokenizing things that aren't yet tokenized. If you look at the UN 17 kind of sustainability goals, like why hasn't anyone tokenized clean air, clean water, and created some kind of collective coin? Like where is the emergent systems that don't exist? Why are we beating up banks? Why are we building new things that don't exist? Right? There's all these planes where there's no money yet, right? And I'll pivot there. And that's an attempt to answer that question. I want to,
Well, I can say that I think, why we've picked the transfer of value is because there is the most friction there.
Okay.
And particularly in cross-border payments where, people are making, $5 a day,
Yeah.
they're getting 20% taken for each transaction, and that's a lot of money. So it's kind of, in the spirit of that, and making that more efficient to level the playing field.
Yeah. I would also say that having like traditional assets like fiat or what have you on these networks enables kind of all these other use cases, right? So, like for instance, this coffee bean thing that I mentioned, it is a new way of a new thing that's tokenized, but it depends on having like some sort of dollar or other fiat currency in the network that they can trade for these coffee beans, right? And so, and the same is true for a lot of the other things that you mentioned. I think in isolation they don't make sense, but once you have like more of the financial infrastructure there and like interoperating with this network, then you can start to have these kind of innovations.
And I will say that there have been, the examples that you've just mentioned, people have tried those in the past.
Yeah, what happens?
I just don't think there's a lot of user adoption.
Got it. Too early for those kind of things.
It could be too early. And hey, we are still in the infancy of, the financial infrastructure part as well.
But it sounds like you're taking us back. There was a time in the United States we had 5,000 different currencies, right? Now you're going to have today we found out, Jesse pointed out that there's a new JP Morgan stablecoin, right? And so we're going to end up with 5,000 new currencies. I think your interledger, like that's going to be, like my grandmother doesn't care, that what it is, right? Does all this stuff become like behind the scenes? Is that?
I think so, yeah. I think you basically have your preferred currency or preferred provider or your bank or what have you, and then that interoperates with other ones, and you don't really care how it gets there, like as long as each person ends up at the end of the day with the thing that they care
So if
about.
they ever did create a digital dollar, or the design should be agnostic to the rails, would you agree with that? It should almost be like a standard or like a Merkle kind of entity. And now I'm getting past it. You guys in Merkle Mountains and stuff, like, are you?
I know Merkle, Merkle,
Merkle, yeah, okay. But yeah, how would you guys design a digital currency for the United States? Or any kind
Jed, there's your opening right there. Federal Reserve asked Jed McCaleb how to create a digital currency. Here we go.
I mean, you have to have somewhere that is represented in some digital form that you trust not to be like defrauded. That's why you can't just issue it on any kind of platform, because some of these things might have security vulnerabilities, and then you end up with like an extra billion digital dollars over here that you don't know exactly what to do with, right? So it's not like you can just put it on any platform.
Sure. You have to trust the network itself,
right.
The topology.
So Michael, this is good. You kind of launched us into this, and I think it's a nice segue to.
Oh shoot.